So thanks very much for your experience. We've also got Mairanne, and she is coming from the Boom Studios in Bangor, and I'd like to apologise to Christine too as well, because I knew I got a lot of these presentations yesterday evening, and I knew somebody was going to be a casualty, and the Bill Gates was going to do me in, and I'm sure. I think I'll probably get the correct version of yours and circulate it, and people can see how much of a mess that I made of putting it into our presentation. So apologies for that. Anyway, Marianne's going to have a chat.
Thank you. My name is Mairanne Kennerly, and I'm the blow-in today. So I've travelled in from Bangor to tell you about our creative social enterprise. So I'm really pleased to be following Christine and Derek as well, because I think what we're actually doing is really relevant to this conversation. So Boom Studios was started up by a small collective of artists who'd had a space in a council-led project in Bangor called Project 24. And we did a year down there, and we decided that we still wanted to have a workspace. It needed to be independent. We wanted to be able to work on our own terms. So we began that conversation and began looking around at what the potential was and what the possibilities were. All we knew at that point was that we wanted a vibrant place to work, and that we wanted to be able to focus on our own individual creative practices or businesses, whatever it might look like for us. So that was 2 years ago. So if you fast forward to where we are now, we're a crafted social enterprise that provides a vibrant workspace and headspace for our local creative industry. We've placed creativity bang in the centre of town, and it's really important to us that we are beginning to establish links between the traditional businesses in Bangor and with our local artists and our creatives. And we wanted to create opportunities for that, and it was really important to us that we're part of the regeneration of the town centre. We deliver social impact, and we do that by being open to the public, and we provide different activities and opportunities for everybody who live in Bangor to be able to come in and engage in creative and arts activity. And we function as a social enterprise. We are a company limited by guarantee, and we're just at the final stages of becoming a charity. So we understand about Northern Ireland's creative industry. It's beginning to thrive, but we also know about the challenges that presents as well. We know there are a number of traditional funded organisations that are having to rethink how they resource and develop their work and their creative work as well. We have a number of different revenue activities that we hope is going to place Boom Studios as an innovative business model for sustainable arts and creative activity in town centres. We provide affordable workspace. We provide workshops that art facilitators can come and deliver activities for their audiences, so they come and hire space from us. We provide quality artistic services. That's quite a broad statement because it does look very different for different things, but that has been public consultations around public art. It has been the arts and craft tent at wider public events. It's been exhibitions, so it's quite a broad service because it's very different depending on the client. And we are building a year-round creative programme that isn't core funded, that's in itself sustainable. So our social benefit activities are about a project communication space. So we have a small gallery where people can come in and connect with their local artists and creatives. And that space is free and available to use for anybody that has a creative offering, and that could be different. So it could be film, it could be an art exhibition, it could be a performance. We run independence events which engage with different sectors of our local community. We run partnership projects which are usually funded. So that could be working in partnership, for example, with our local YMCA to deliver creative activities to benefit their users. We've also worked with TransLink in partnership and our local Northern Community Network as well. And again, our year-round programme that we're developing is part of that. So just to go back a few years to give you a bit of context of what Bangor was like, and I will skip through this because it's been discussed today, but this was an article by the Belfast Telegraph in 2009, and it cited Bangor as being home to Ulster's biggest eyesore. So we had a beautiful Victorian seafront which had been left to be neglected, into decay. There'd been a fire in a building, and it had just been passed over for a number of years. So we did have empty shop syndrome going on at this time. We also had a very disconnected community as well. So people weren't proud already touched on civic pride. They didn't want to be from Bangor, they wanted to be from Kilcully or Bangor West or Ballyhome. So this was a real opportunity. So as an artist and designer, opportunities are great for us. You know, it starts us thinking, it starts us looking at, well, what could we do to resolve this? So just to home in on the creative and sort of cultural and arts sector in Bangor at this time, there was no workspaces for creatives, no selling spaces. The galleries, the independent galleries, had closed down due to the recession. The community learning spaces where maybe an artist would go to hire to use were 1970s community centres, so not very inspiring. And there was minimal community arts activities, so the organisations weren't really thinking about arts as a vehicle for wider benefits. There was some connected activity, but it was very traditional in terms of art clubs and photography clubs, really for the older generation in the retired sector. So this obviously, we started to see a bit of a backlash against this situation. So the first thing that happened was a collective was established, which was Firsty Creative. Firsty Creative is mainly a Facebook collective. It is sleepier now than it was at this time, but they began bringing people together. They hosted meetups in pubs. Those meetups created discussions and conversations. The conversations turned into actions. So it was things like pop-up exhibitions in empty shops. It was participating in larger events. And it was, beginning to think about what the creative and cultural and art sector could look like in the town. Shortly after this, Open House Festival relocated from Belfast to Bangor. It is a force in itself, a music festival that takes over the town for the month of August and completely transforms Bangor into the type of town that we want to live in. So creative, busy, lively, and lots going on. And then in April 13, Project 24 opened, which really addressed the problem that was highlighted in the newspaper article. So 12 shipping container art studios were landed in onto Queen's Parade. It's a council-led project funded by the Department of Social Development. And this offers 12 artist studios in community green space and in a shared community gardens. So this was a temporary project, but 4 years later it's still there as the whole site is being in a larger conversation of redevelopment. So this is the building that we took on. You can't be more central in the town. If you know Bangor at all, there's a crossroad with 4 bank buildings. This was built in 1969 as an Allied Irish bank building. We took on the top floor in December 14, and we were able to offer 5 studio spaces and our workshop space as well. It really does lean itself to being an art creative space. It had been empty for 5 years, so sort of to contradict what Christine was saying, we found it very easy. The landlords wanted us in there and were happy for us to move in and take it on and start using it and seeing where we could go. So it's all been done on a very organic basis. We didn't have a big thick business plan to start with. It's been more about just trying it and seeing what happened. So we started with the 5 studio spaces at the top, and we now offer 8 studio spaces on the top floor. And in September we took on the first floor of this building as well, and we now offer 17 studio spaces. We have a workshop space, as I said, where we can hire out to arts facilitators to host classes, and we have a small gallery space as well. In the new year we're going to launch what we're calling a heart space, and it's really to start that journey into having your own independent studio space. So the idea with that is a very low cost space, not a hot desk space, still a monthly rental, but a space you can rent per metre, because if you're a writer you only need a desk and a chair. If you're a sculptor you maybe need bigger space. This is a poster by one of our local graphic designers, Neil McCulloch, and I picked this just to illustrate how we've done it. And it's been basically about doing it ourselves. There was no glimmer of any activity or anybody else doing a follow-on from Project 24. There was nobody thinking about a permanent space within the town centre for creatives to call their home. So it's really been about doing it ourselves. We didn't have any large upfront investment. We started at a big fat zero, and we've just slowly grown from there. And our strategic plan and our business model is based around doing things, and it's about research and development, working and learning as we go. And for the past 2 years that's been fine, but now we're more established and more, there's more of an expectation of what we're doing and what we're about. We now know we need to be a little bit more strategic, but I think at the core of what we're going to be doing is going to be that constant horizon scanning, to see what's out there and what we can get involved in and do. With social enterprise, you discuss your theory of change, and it's actually the stages you go to and where you want to get to. Boom is a response to a problem, and it has organically developed over 2 years. So we didn't sit down 2 years ago and go, this is what we're going to do. As we've engaged and as we've done and as we've learnt things, we've now got to this point where we have an idea of what our change looks like. And sitting at the middle is this quite important statement of having a vibrant and interesting place to live, work and visit, as tourism is quite important to Bangor. I just wanted to pick up on some of the key themes to today. So when we're talking about youth unemployment, we offer a non-curated entry into our space. So as long as you can show a creative intention or a pathway that you want to go on, you can come and hire a space from us. In terms of supporting women, we're a child-friendly, mother-friendly space. So we have designers and we have mothers working from the space, and their children are welcome to come into the space. We now are also beginning to think about what a time banking model looks like for us in terms of childcare. We do activities for children in the space, so there is a nice sort of relationship developing there. Our relationship with older people, and we engage with older people through outreach programs and through some of the activities that we deliver in the space, so some of the workshops we do. People with disabilities are engaged with through having an accessible space. So even though we're on the top floor, we still have a lift. That was quite important to us from the very beginning. And we engage with minority groups through allowing them to share things from their culture. So we have an Indian artist who comes in and delivers henna art workshop. We couldn't have designed that at the very beginning. That's something that has happened through the process of doing, and it's a really interesting conversation to continue on. And just to highlight some of the barriers as well, just to echo what's already been said, but we do see that there's a real lack of business skills, especially within the more visual arts community. And when you say the B word to them, they just recoil and they don't want to even think about it. So there needs to be a different type of language, and there needs to be almost a different type of method for them to begin to start thinking about that. Sending them on the course, I don't think will cut it. They need something different and something else. Within the town centre, some of the challenges have been around infrastructure, so things like a poor Wi-Fi communication system, public transport access, although it's okay in Bangor, but it could be improved, and the old favourite of town centre car parking. We're now at the stage where we need to source capital investment. We are in an old building and we need to work out how we can bring that up to standard, and that's where we're starting to see difficulties. It's one reason for going down the charitable route as well, but we need access to funds that we can strengthen our walls and put in new electrics and all this kind of thing to make it a contemporary space to be in. And of course, especially within Bangor, we have high rates. So how do we negotiate that? How does anybody who has a good, sensible idea get around the issue of extremely high rates? On an individual basis, you can't do it. Even our smallest units in Bangor, people are priced out of taking them on at the moment. So there needs to be something around that, and there needs to be systems in place that address that as well. This is a piece by one of our artists, Steph Hanlon. And instead of putting up a load of figures up there, I thought you would probably remember a piece of art. So Steph's process is very organic, and I think it just reflects really our process as well. But I just wanted to highlight some of our achievements over the past couple of years. So we've hosted Workspace for 21 individual creative practices. We've worked in partnership with 9 facilitators. We have 10 volunteers, and we now have 2 new groups that have stemmed out of the work we're doing, one of which is a community band, so a no entry band. This year we've hosted 150 accessible workshops for our local residents. We've hosted 25 workshops for our arts and creative industry, so activities like life drawing, for example. We've delivered 8 professional development seminars, 2 groups exhibitions which have been in partnership with other organisations and have taken place outside of our space. So the most recent one was with TransLink, where we took over a dead space in the train station in Bangor and filled it full of art. We've delivered 2 funded projects, particularly for our local visual artists. We've directly engaged with 3,000 people this year, so that's a mixture of local artists and residents. We've participated in 4 public events, and this year we've created £4,000 worth of paid work for our local artists and contributed to £6,000 worth of paid work for our facilitators. So we know that art creates a smile, and we know that it changes lives, and our social impact is centred on that, and hopefully we'll be able to make some more beautiful work in the process of doing that. Thank you very much.